Welcome to BaldHeaded Metal, guys, and welcome back to another reaction. This time around, which I'm excited for, is a new Riding Christ song, their Holy Mountain, featuring Lars Nedland, which I don't know who exactly that person is. But anybody who's been to this channel knows I'm a big fan of Sakes. I like his project that he released recently, Amongst the Fires. I love Riding Christ from their Ayola era. So I'm really kind of excited to see what this is all about. There has been something going on with Riding Christ where they kind of settled into a sound that they've been repeating for multiple albums, which I loved, but I wouldn't see some kind of evolution or change up in this new album. So let's see if this single has it. I really hope it does. I hope there's some change ups. So far, sounds pretty classic. I'm already kind of surprised by the fact that it's so far just clean singing. I mean, there's always been clean singing in that new era of Riding Christ. But so far, it's just clean singing, but also very classic in the songwriting. They have these kind of riffs where they play a single note or a very few notes for a long period of time to create the mood, right? Riding Christ has never been about technical skill. It's been about composition, mood, feeling. And of course, it being a Greek band, I think nature is always going to be a major thematic to any Greek band. So I guess all these kinds of things come together here. There we go with the more classic vocals that I'm used to hearing from Sakes. I gotta say, I like this. I like this so far, but I also can see this being kind of a disappointment to some fans because there's not much of a change up. This sounds like what we've heard for the past 4 or 5 albums, and it hasn't really shifted in any kind of significant way. It's a very similar songwriting. It's very similar sounding. I mean, production-wise, it has its thing that's going on, but overall, it's very, very familiar ground. It's sort of like what's been happening with Iron Maiden or Judas Priest, less so because I think Judas Priest takes more risks. But the idea of that it's the familiar comfort food of Riding Christ that you're getting here, and so much so with Sakes releasing his solo project, this feels just too similar. For me, it's not particularly a problem if the music is just good. Like, I don't care if the sound has changed much. To me, this is just right up my alley. For others, it could be a little bit tiresome and kind of they're over it. So it'll be interesting to see some of you guys actually down in the comments of how you feel about it, because I know in the past reaction that I did to Sakes, I've got that sentiment from one of the fans in the comments. There's a couple things I'm going to say. I overall am enjoying this single, and I liked the direction. I'm one of the fans of Riding Christ that believes their black metal or traditional doom metal roots that they've had, that the harsher sound that they've had, is actually not as good as what started happening with Iola and all these. Thegonia, I think, was the first one that became really melodic. And I'm of the opinion that this is a better sound for the band. They've just developed, they've got into their own little thing that nobody sounds like them, really. And I really enjoy the melodies that Riding Christ creates with this consistent, like either drumming or riffing in the background with melody that accompanies it to kind of give the speed to the melody that they put in their music. I really, really enjoy that from this band. That's what really kind of got me into them, is that they're quite beautiful in melody, sort of like Dawn of Solace or Wolfheart. But there's also something about Riding Christ, especially in the last couple albums, is repetition in chorus and what you call a bridge, is that it just repeats on and on and on, where I feel like the change up finally came here, but it came a little bit late. I feel you can create mood and you can create feeling and you can create as long of a song as you want, but evolve even the same bridge, you just add something to it, or an added extra element, change up one of the riffs, something to give it a different feeling. Where it sounds very similar sounding, so much so I'm like, wow, this kind of sounds like the song that I've heard from one of the previous albums, slightly changed up, you know? And I still am of the opinion that I feel like I like this. It doesn't bother me too much, but it's also an indication of a band who perhaps maybe they've reached their highest point at some point, right? And they're just kind of cruising, or perhaps maybe a stagnation in creativity or doing too much. Sakis is like all over the place, and I really respect him as an artist and as a musician. But yeah, you can't spread yourself a little thin trying to be everywhere at once. And he's a very talented guitarist and songwriter. I think I would like to see more creativity or something like, wow, didn't expect that from Riding Christ on this album, which I didn't hear with this song. Yeah. I gotta say the music video, well, I mean, they call it lyric video, but really it's a music video with beautiful scenery of the mountains where, by the way, for those who've been following on this channel, I just came back from Hawaii, which the scenery there was stunning when I went through like rainforests, or should I say jungles? I'm not sure if it's tropic or subtropic. But when I went to the mountains, when I went to the Diamond Head Peak and everything, it was just absolutely beautiful, beautiful state. I had so much fun there, and just seeing the scenery here. Obviously, Greece. I'm assuming it's Greece has beautiful scenery there as well. I'd love to visit it one day. From a music standpoint, you kind of already know where I'm standing. I'm excited for the album. I want to hear it. I want to see what it's all about. Even if it's more of the same, it's just you'll expect me to say that. I'm not gonna hold back. Despite how much I love the band, I'm also of the opinion like if you're a fan of the band, it's okay to criticize them. You don't have to just constantly be on them. And no, nobody can create like Megadeth used to be like this. You say something about Megadeth, people come out in waves and attack you, or say something about Metallica when they do something bad, I'm gonna say it, or when it could have been better, I'm gonna say it. But it doesn't mean I don't enjoy it. It's I call myself a true fan of certain bands. When I mean that, I will follow you even if you slip up or make a mistake. It My love for you doesn't stop, but I can also admit it. I would love to hear from the other fans of Riding Christ. Kind of, how do you feel about this? Perhaps somebody who doesn't really know Riding Christ. How do you feel about this kind of song and what they're all about? I feel like this is not the best representation of the band. You might be like, I kind of heard this before. I would actually have you start with maybe some of the older albums to see why I think this band is quite important in this genre of doom, black, melodic death metal thing that they're doing here. Because it's hard for me to always pinpoint who Riding Christ really is now, where before it was quite clear kind of black metal roots. Guys, make sure to enjoy the rest of your day. If you have requests for other bands, please let me know down below. I've also created a Patreon for those who care, where I try to take some of the requests on early, obviously through Patreon. I try to limit it to only a couple of weeks so it doesn't become a Patreon channel. But it's a nice way to kind of diversify. It helps support the channel, obviously. And it helps me kind of do more work here because I eventually would love to do a lot more on this channel. I'm limited by how much I can do because I have to work. I have to work full time. Guys, with that being said, let's just cut it short. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe out there. Keep it metal. And let me know what your thoughts are.